Betty, I think you're going to speak
Yes.
from the panel. Please go ahead.
Sure. Good afternoon. Buenas tardes. I just want to start by saying, because some of you in the audience may not have a clue about what's the Chancellor of the State of New York. So let me just give you what I call a very brief. We have 3.1 million students, and I am the first Puerto Rican female in 243 years in the entire state of New York to hold this position.
Proud of her.
And I want to say that I am here today not only in terms of the work that the AFT is doing and that IDA is doing and many others on the island are doing, but as somebody that was born in the mainland and left when I was 5 months old and did not return till I was 3 months before I was going to turn 10 years old. I speak both languages. I've held on every summer. My father, who was educated in La Universidad de Mayagüez, made sure that we always went back because of the notion of extended family and always, and it's so interesting, a year after I left, I was called a New Yorican when I returned. And I barely knew English, so I just found that to be so fascinating. I'm very connected to the issues and to Puerto Rico. I was there right before the issue of Maria. I was actually there also when a few years ago they had to write the response because there were issues of the federal reimbursable issues, and I worked as a volunteer to do that. And at that time, I had just left my borough superintendency. I do want to say that in this particular conversation, to respond to what works before I get there, I do want to say that in a crisis requires what I call courageous leadership. And sometimes we're missing that courageous leadership. It is clear that, for example, one of the places that most Puerto Ricans call, besides Orlando and other places, home is New York City, particularly the Bronx. I am not only the chancellor of the entire Board of Regents for the state, but I'm also the Bronx representative, so I wear two hats. And our borough president, Ruben Diaz, who also happens to be Puerto Rican, responded in an amazing way, along with our governor. But it was not enough, and it's still not enough. I think that the issue of the moral imperative and the fact that the government, the federal government, has not extended the kind of hand that it has extended in other places is shameful. I think the issue of investment lacks. The fact that we have an economy that we had that in Puerto Rico that we allowed to collapse is once again shameful. And to think about rebuilding, and I'm going to be very, very brief because I do want to get to what works. In rebuilding or reinventing or recreating or transforming, you do that based on some short-term and long-term goals, as most of us know in the States, when you face a crisis and how you respond to that crisis. One of the things that's very unsettling, and hearing this not only recently but today, is the issue of using the model of Katrina, using the model of New Orleans. That community was a community of color. And it is, again, it is shame on all of us that we truly believe that that is the solution for an island, because we are treating it exactly the same way. We do not treat other places the same way. So this is a response based on limited research, a response because we do see the people on the island as people of color. And so there is an undertone of racism, and you know what? Call it out. Shame on us if we don't call it by its name. And it is, It is so beyond belief that we are looking for these quick fixes when in fact we know that the schools for a long time have not been receiving the kinds of resources, opportunities, particularly even in Puerto Rico, we have a divide, right? We have the wealthy and we have the poor.
Yes.
And how we treat the wealthy, no different than in this country, and how we treat the poor is very different. The rich have a certain type of education, which is very privileged, and the poor have a different type of education. So I think that in truth, we have to, once again, call it for what it is. I think that this drastic issue has created opportunities to recreate. Unfortunately, if we don't take this moment in time to recreate in a way that makes a statement about what we care about, our schools, our children, and our community, what we're going to end up with is the kind of fix that's going to leave us in a worse situation, as Ida said. So I truly believe that revamping, having conversations around the political will to do this correctly and to do it for the right reasons is essential. I am here to represent the state of New York from educators that passionately, that knew that I needed to be here today to say presente, because they passionately care about this issue and they passionately care about the response to this issue. And there are many people that are looking at the issue of rising together, building community schools as an example, not vouchers and charters. And again, let me just say this, we do have charters, but we also know that a wholesale solution, one size fits all, is not a solution either. I do think that the notion of community school as a hub of building a community again around the family is critical. Schools that have, I ran on a personal level in Washington Heights, a school that was open till 10 p.m., Salomé Reina de Enrique, and it was the first community school in New York City on 196th Street that was the hub of that community. It had dental clinic, it had mental health services, as you talked about, social emotional. But the dental clinic was for the family. It was just not limited to just the child. We ran classes, adult classes, to engage the family in knowing that they're in this together, that everybody's learning, that everybody's committed. The notion of community, building community, is very simple. Look at that word, common unity, coming together to build that sense of hope, that sense of building dreams, that sense of being part of a full commitment and building a full service school that allows the community to see their signature as part of that world. So I'm going to offer the community schools as one issue. I'm also going to offer an innovative, and all of you can go on the website and look it up in the Bronx, and it's called Rising Together. And Rising Together is a community initiative in the Bronx that looks at economic development, looks at housing, building, jobs, markets, CTE, all the different components that are needed to create and maintain, and you can go on the website and see it, maintain a sense of community. Not about flight, but about building, grounding, putting roots, as most of us, as a biology teacher, you can relate to. So I would say those would be two, and there are many more that are built on, as you said, research, not solutions that are built on profit. not solutions that are built on failure, not solutions that empower and, as Senator Sanders said, give more money over to the ones that already have so much that I don't even know how they're going to spend it in their lifetime, and even some of these organizations. So I would say, yes, we do have a lot of work ahead of us, and I am here today to commit that New York State, as a state, is very committed to this, because I, as somebody who's lived in both, see myself as a bridge and someone that I cannot continue to look beyond the fact that this is shameful and this is a disgrace, that the people, our people, collectively, and everybody in this room should feel that way, that our people, our American people, are being treated as second-class citizen. And on that note, I will end with the famous word that's being used as the motto of Puerto Rico, se levanta. And you know what? And we will. Thank you.